Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think the last time I talked to Cathy Roemer in person was at a breakfast over in Jerome County almost a year ago or about a year ago.
It
And
was?
we were talking at the time about having you on the air. And, so a year later,
Well,
things
we all
got
get
busy.
busy doing things,
Yes.
definitely.
We should point out you're a longtime member of the Board of Commissioners. I guess that's how you would phrase it, or a
Yeah,
commissioner from Jerome
I'm in my
County.
third term, which would be about my eighth year.
We got to also point out you are the lucky one this year because you're not running for reelection.
It's been nice. It has been. I mean, campaigning gets you out there and makes you realize why you got in the first place and why you wanted to. So, but it is kind of nice to have a little break.
You've got a lot going on. You want to bring up a couple of things today, too, because Jerome County happens to be one of the busiest places in all of the Magic Valley.
Well, yeah, I think we are. We've always got a lot going on. If you want to talk about county business a little bit, I can certainly do that.
Sure.
Uh, Excuse me. So, it's been about maybe 2 years that we've started our economic development group, Jerome 2020, which encompasses the whole county, really. Although the city of Jerome and the county of Jerome are primary funders to that, there's also a lot of private money coming in to that to, uh, pay for office. And then we have an executive director, Mr. Larry Hall, who's doing a wonderful job for us. So there's that going on. Um, in terms of, we can't forget our two little cities on the east end of the county, Hazleton and Eden. Great place to go and eat at some of the fine eateries over there if you're willing to make the drive. And they have some lovely parks. And of course, Hazleton, has a wonderful 4th of July celebration. Actually, I believe it's a weekend before the 4th so that they don't conflict with 4th of July type things. So there is a lot of activity in Jerome County,
Big
definitely.
geographic area, though, and people are really scattered around. And, when you think about it, there's sometimes a lot of territory, a lot of farmland in between various communities,
Well, there is, and we have a lot of federal ground, BLM ground in Jerome County as well. So
which is why you can't develop that side of the canyon, right?
exactly. Yeah. Idaho Department of Lands is directly across, I guess you could say, from the strip mall there on the south side, and they own about 1,200 acres in there. And then from there, it's a little bit of a mixture, mostly federal ground, but there is some private ground a little bit to the west along Golf Course Road as well.
Now, I was out in Jerome last summer. The Historical Society in the city did a program, and then I went out to an event at one of the local car dealers, and it was a big time all day event. And you had fire engines out there and carnival going on and various things. But the county itself, and I think that the reason we wanted you to come by and maybe more often too is because it does tend to get overlooked. I think because there's no great media center in the county at this point.
Well, if we get overlooked, we're trying not to be overlooked. But just by the mere fact that our geographic relation to a community, Twin Falls City, that is growing rapidly and has all these amenities, it's a short drive from Jerome, if you will. And I'm a long time, I mean, I was born and raised in Jerome. And all my life, it's been a back and forth between Twin Falls and Jerome. In fact, I'm as familiar with Twin Falls City as I am with Jerome County, and I mean, you can't really help the fact that maybe we're somewhat of a bedroom community, but I think we're very ripe for good growth, residential, commercial, etc.
When you aim at, you mentioned aiming at 2020. You've got that huge growth. In fact, on the south end of the city, I guess it is when
Yes,
you go
out
into Jerome,
Lincoln.
right?
Uh-huh.
And so you've got all these plazas going up and all of that. But beyond that, you're likely still looking for some large business or businesses. And my gosh, there is a lot of space there that you could still use.
Well, there is, but you have to remember oftentimes it's services, what infrastructure and services are available. And over the years, then, the city of Jerome has put a line of water out to Crossroads Point, and you're probably familiar with that area
Mhm.
at the intersection of 84 and 93. So city services are available there, and that's really starting to take off. In fact, the Valley Country Store will be the newest addition out there.
I know you're not campaigning this year, but obviously when you're you're out at various breakfasts and other events and you speak at maybe a Rotary Club or Kiwanis. What what is the major concern I think that you find among the people, your constituents, that the one thing that they say this is what Jerome County really needs right now?
Oh, well,
Or do they give you several, I suppose?
I think we're not too different than any other small town area. It would be nice to have retention of people in terms of jobs. And like I say, I don't think we're any different than anyone else. And so that really is probably one of the main focuses for economic development to keep young people in the area, keep those families that perhaps have ties to the area, give them something to stay for. Because the quality of life, is wonderful in the Magic Valley, and we're part of the Magic Valley. And our proximity, and I know people have probably heard this many, many times, but our proximity to recreation, and I'll just go back very quickly to the east end of the county. One thing that we've put money and time into, along with the Valley Recreation District and Waterways Committee, is Wilson Lake, developing that park over there. And it's a place where families can go to swim and boaters can go to boat. And so it's a nearby water recreation, if you will.
The tax burden obviously has to be very light. And I would imagine that when you're trying to bring a business or convince someone to locate, first of all, they're going to ask about water. But as long as we've got water for the time being, that's not a huge issue. It looks like we'll have plenty this year anyway. But they're looking at, I think, utilities and taxes. But if you can meet all of those needs, those maybe three needs: water, utilities, and taxes, you can bring them here, right? It's a matter of showing them how you can tie it all together.
Exactly. And oftentimes it's offering or being able to offer those incentives, which counties don't have a lot of opportunities for incentives. By Idaho statute, we do have one that if you bring $3 million worth of value, we can exempt you from property taxes any percentage up to 100% for 5 years. Now, we have used that twice. And then if the state combines with us, of course, they have the new tax reimbursement incentive, and I don't have all the details on that, but it does have to do with exempting from payroll tax and a couple of other items in there. So unfortunately, it's not always the true market in that sense of the word that brings businesses. You have to have things that will attract them and offer them those incentives.
It's coming up on 9:15. Cathy Roemer is our guest, joining us from the Jerome County Commission, and of course, she's a longtime serving commissioner there. And you're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX at newsradio1310.com with Bill Colley, and it's 49. I think that the one thing that struck me when I'm driving around is there are all these new housing developments going up on the east end of the county, and they are high end developments. So you're at least convincing people that it's a good place to live. Um, Sooner or later, business will follow people if they come there. And again, I had a young person tell me in studio that one time most of my friends just pack up and want to go to California and get out of here.
Hmm.
But if you can start to build nicer neighborhoods and new homes and services come, and then other industry perhaps as well, uh, it's got to work out at some point where you find a way to do all of that.
Well, people look at schools too, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when you talk about residential, oftentimes it means young families. And we have had some good additions to our school system, our school district. The high school is getting a total revamp and some additions to the elementary and that kind of thing. And so I think that's a real plus. Valley School District over in Eden Hazelton area has always had a wonderful reputation for educating children in smaller classroom settings and that kind of thing. So that education can be a great pull, I think, for people.
Now, when we were talking last spring, you mentioned that the fair is really a great fair, and I came back to work and I mentioned it to Benito Baeza, and Benito said, "Oh yeah," he said, "it's the best fair in the area." Now, I may know some people that may dispute that in other counties, but he said it's his favorite to go to. That's the other big event that you've got coming up in a few months, and county puts a lot of resources into that.
Well, we have a wonderful fair manager, Kathleen Height, and a great fair board, and they're very dedicated and committed to what they do. And we carry a capital line item in the county to help fund some of those things. But the fair board actually is their own entity by Idaho statute, and so it is their big money raiser, their big fundraiser, if you will, to keep things going along out there. I think Kathleen and the Fair Board have done a wonderful job in sprucing up, I think, the fairgrounds. There's a lot to be done, but this year, in fact, we actually had to spend some dollars to look at the drainage situation at the fairgrounds, and it was well worth the investment because it'll help them manage the water, the unwanted water, if you will, that comes oftentimes,
Yeah,
and
comes
we
all at
just
once is what
we got a
happens.
report from Kathleen the other day with photos and whatnot, a camera going down a main line and all of the debris and large rocks and things that were in there that were causing backups. And so sometimes you just have to do a little bit of house cleaning. And but I think it's been a good investment, in the maintenance of the fairgrounds and whatnot.
Got about a minute left, and I know there are people who tuning in today, and there are always people thinking about relocating and the like. If you were today to be the pitch man or pitch woman, I guess in your case, for Jerome County, what would you tell them? I mean, if about living there, and how would you market it in a what do they call it, the elevator speech?
Oh boy, I'm not sure I've practiced an elevator speech.
There aren't many
Although
elevators
there's a
around here,
lot
to
of
be honest.
community pride in Jerome County, and I love that. You hear that often in the gatherings and whatnot that I go to. People are committed to their community, always looking for ways to make it better. I think we have a wonderful city council network, in Eden, Hazelton, and Jerome, and I think the county is doing quite well. I always encourage people because I'm there to get to know your city councilman, your county commissioners, and on a first name basis, get interested in what's going on, and you can really make a difference. But we do have a lot to offer
Feedback.
besides our proximity to Twin Falls.
You need feedback, is what you need from people.
And I do appreciate you saying that. I think, yeah, it's always helpful to hear from people.
And if people would like to get in touch with you, how do they go about doing that?
Well, I can even give you my cell phone number. I mean, it's on my website. I can always be contacted at 308 5034. And I can give you my email address if you like.
Hmm.
It would be C Roemer, that's Roemer, at co dot Jerome dot id dot us. And I'd love to hear from people.
I was going to say I don't give my cell phone number out for obvious reasons, but then I'm not I'm not in government. So I
Yeah,
if
well,
I was,
it's my contact number, so
and as she pointed out, it's on the website too as well. I want to thank you
it
for coming
is.
by.
Well, thank you so very much for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
And the next time you have something big going on, we have to talk.
Okay, that would be
Even if
wonderful.
it's just picking up the telephone and doing it that way.
Certainly, I'll keep that in mind. I
That way,
need to be
Steve
focused
Millington
more on that.
Won't pester you in the lobby. We've got a
Oh,
break.
he has a way to get under your skin, doesn't he?
I want to thank Cathy Roemer for coming by. We've got a short break just ahead.